All right. Okay, so we are live, which is super, super, super exciting. Today is a special edition of Speak Poet Saturday. We have a panel today of some pretty incredible slam poets that I'm super excited to introduce to all of you. Well, you know what? I'll make y'all introduce yourselves. So, Stacy, if you wanted to go ahead and start and give a little bit about yourself.
I won the Phoenix Poetry Slam this year and a couple years in there. I've been slamming for about 3.5, maybe 4 years. Met both of these wonderful gentlemen along that journey, along with, some really phenomenal people. So I published a book of poetry 2 years ago, self-produced my own hip-hop album and wrote all the lyrics for that last year. And I'm looking forward to going to some poetry slams with these two fellas here in the future as soon as everything opens back up.
Awesome. Jordan, if you wanted to go next.
Yeah. My name's Jordan. Hello, everyone. I like to perform under the name Naughty Mouse. I first discovered slam when I was teaching middle school, and it has carried me through like 5 life stages. I did my own little tour a few years ago, and my thing is smashing history and politics with rhythm and diction and a little mix I like to call pulp nonfiction.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Tristan, it's your turn.
Okay. I've been writing poetry for a very long time. I was forced to write poetry my junior year of high school. So
Okay.
1976. So I've written an incredible amount of bad poetry. I started slam poetry in 2004. I saw a couple of things and I was immediately hooked, and I said, I'm going to be on a national team. So 2006 was my first national team, and I've been on 6 now. And I won a little poetry thing a few days ago, and yeah, this is fun.
Awesome. I also think it's super fun, which is very cool. So I'm glad that we're all on the same page. I assume we were if we're all somehow involved with AMP in one way or another. So we're going to start with a fun little writing exercise just to get everybody, I know you all know each other really well. So I was going to say comfortable with each other, but I know you already are. But we're just going to do a fun little writing exercise. I have a little picture to show you, and I just want you to write with your senses, just kind of like what comes up for you with this picture. So I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So it's going to be super speedy. So be ready. Okay.
Haiku time.
Let's see. I know you're just looking at my screen. I'm so sorry. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
The
Perfect.
hills are alive.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes. And we are just going to go ahead and do it. So if you have your writing utensil ready, I'm going to set the timer in 3, 2, 1, write. Got 30 seconds left.
Thank you.
I'm also writing one, so just to level us all, you know.
Awesome.
So I forgot to check the time. Okay, you got 5 seconds. All right, poets, time is up. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, get rid of this picture. How do we feel?
Glad to have done something.
Okay, cool. Well, you're all gonna share, which I'm sure that you knew was coming. So whoever wants to go first, if anybody's willing to go first.
I'll go first because mine's probably the shortest. I know they both write very fast.
Okay, perfect.
6 lines, that's it. The lake is just down the hill. The light is misleading. There is darkness within, below. No glistening golden nymph with a magical sword, closer to Grendel's mom, boiling in the depths. That's it.
Astounding. I just read Beowulf for a class, so very relevant.
You have to read Grendel.
Yes.
Grendel, because it's from the monster's point of view, and it's a lot more fun.
The
I
mother.
bet. I did not enjoy Beowulf, so.
Are they the same story, but like from different perspectives? Like one's the story of
Different
the
perspectives.
monster.
Yeah, so from the
So
monster,
cool.
you can actually watch the whole thing in a cartoon version on YouTube, narrated by Peter Ustinov.
Okay, I've written it down, so.
I didn't like Beowulf either, and I loved Grendel.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
Good to know. I always appreciate a good recommendation. So, all right. So Stacy or Jordan, whichever of you wants to go first.
Rock, paper, scissors. Just kidding. I'll go.
Cool.
Golden dreams, turquoise waters, climbing higher, the vision goes farther. Up in the clouds, I keep coming down. Provisions and decisions got me asking how. My purpose is the why. I keep my eyes on the sky.
Nice.
I think that was one mistake today.
Okay, rhyme scheme. I feel the rhythm.
Oh man.
I feel it. I'm here, Stacy. I'm here with you.
Cool.
All right, Jordan, I think you're up.
All right. Cool mountain streams, the stuff of joyous dreams, out beyond the buzz, the dull roar of a world of machines, in a place that has never known Applebee's, but where you will for sure learn about your allergies. How will you spend your time in this place? Do you use it like this is just one more stage in your daily race? Or will you use this moment to stop the chase and be instead of do? How about you?
Ooh. How about me? How about us? All right. I can share mine for funsies if you want.
Please.
Just my silly little handwriting. Okay. I want to dive into your crystal blue. Oh no, ignore me. Okay, got it. Rolling down the hills, screaming like little kids. My skin itches now, but you're smiling, and that's what matters. You're smiling, and I hear your laughter as we plunge into the depths and break the crystal clear surface. And I think, damn, this is perfect.
Cool.
Short and sweet.
Cool.
Yes.
I like that you all came from a positive place on that. I saw the lake and I thought I had to do a 3-mile swim in this basically bottomless lake in Germany when I was a kid. And I saw that lake and I thought the creepiness of crossing that lake so many times next to the boat and knowing that it went down forever.
So
That's the fun thing about just picking a random picture. You never know what it's going to bring up for anybody. So that's super cool. I could not imagine.
there's a rock quarry up in northern Arizona that's a big, that's all filled in with water now, and they have carp that are like the size of cars. Like they're terrifying. You've been there, right?
No, but I've seen carp that big.
Yeah.
It made me think. I got lost in Yosemite once, and the friend I was with, he had the map and I had the compass, and I had the stove and he had the food, and so I ended up like wandering out of Yosemite like 2 days later, very hungry and thirsty. And I was like, clearly I survived.
Yeah.
The moment of like, I'm about to get lost, but make it through in the end.
Oh my gosh.
A story of triumph, of course.
Charitably.
Awesome. I'm going to start diving into some of these questions that I have for y'all. I'm going to put it up on the screen for fun because that's something that I can do, which I think is just like so crazy. So question 1, how fun, right?
Yeah.
The first question is, what is your favorite thing about spoken word poetry?
Me?
You can just go ahead and pop in whenever you're ready.
Okay.
It's the family. It's all the other poets. I could have a dry run and I haven't written anything for ages, and I can go to a poetry slam or a mic, and I can come away with something. Sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a line, sometimes it's a whole poem, or sometimes I meet a brand new poet and I go, oh my God, like 6 lines into it, it's like, I love her. She's awesome. And then other people, it's kind of like, whoa, I never want to piss him off because he's amazing at football. But we were good teammates before.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We went to Cheers together.
Yeah, we basically are now like a 1970s sitcom right now.
Am I the special guest in this episode?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
y'all's show, actually. I'm just here.
You're Don Rickles doing a cameo.
Yeah.
Here I am.
A recurring character on the show, coming back for like a regular, back by popular demand kind of situation.
Wow.
I'll take it. What about you, Stacy or Jordan? What is your favorite part?
I think, Stacy, if you want to go first, okay. For me, I always think that writing feels like a form of magic in a sense. And spoken word poetry, it always feels like it's easier in one way than writing like a play or a story or like strict poetry that you would think of for a classroom. Because you can just get into it and do whatever you want. But because you can do that, it feels like more powerful to me than a lot of the other forms. It's like the beginner class at Hogwarts and like the graduate class at Hogwarts all in one.
Yeah.
That would be mine.
Cool.
You can condense a 30,000 novella into a 300-word poem, and it's kind of like being lazy sometimes, but it's also like it's just taking that big huge story and throwing away all the extraneous stuff, all the extra BS, condensing it down to the quality stuff. That's what 3 minutes does for me.
Yeah.
These poets inspire me. I never feel like exacerbated or exhausted. Like they just, like I'm so impressed and then so inspired at the same time to just go home and get all those thoughts out. Like, yeah, I think in almost every other genre of writing, you're almost like speaking metaphorically and there's character development like you were talking about. And poetry just, goes straight for the jugular. People have a limited, attention span. And definitely having ADD has taught me that. And I think the immediacy of poetry is just absolutely addictive. It's amazing. And like Tristan, you talk about paring down words, like we were talking about classic literature earlier. Hemingway was always my favorite writer, not my favorite person, but my favorite writer because it was so sparse and every word meant so much and was clearly, in contrast reading like the Scarlet Letter, I was like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. No matter how good the writing is, if it's so drawn out, you just get lost. So,
2 paragraphs about a vase on the kitchen counter, and it's not necessary to the story. You talk about Hemingway. Neil Gaiman's Ocean at the End of the Lane is a book that I read, and I had to read it out loud to myself because it flowed and it was so perfect. And I enjoy moments like that. And in slam poetry, you get that in 3-minute snippets. When you get that 3 minutes that you're totally enraptured in the 3 minutes, it's like, I don't know, it's like chocolate cake.
Yeah.
The best
do
kind
it
of
anyway.
cake.
Yeah, you don't need anything. You don't need any you can just do it anywhere. And that's my favorite thing when people are like, do it right now, and you just
Yeah.
You're like, okay, bet I will.
It's so fun. It's my favorite thing. What are you gonna say, Jordan?
I was just thinking it's like on that I love like when you go somewhere like here we had like a quick 2-minute write or something else, you can have it start a sessions. It's just like one of the beautiful things about someone coming new to it. When I look at kind of the three of us, we kind of each saw each other's like first days in a way, which is kind of interesting to think about and realizing now. But you can be like, hey, you maybe want to write a story, like if you meet someone who wants to be a novelist or something else, but if someone wants to be a slam poet, show me who you are. Just let's hear your voice, and it kind of pops out, and you learn different ways to give that power. And just thinking about like, oh, I want to read this story out loud with the Hemingway stories, right? Those, like if you have a poet, because it's already coming off of whatever their speech cadences are, you already get kind of that natural window onto them, and like their soul, their personality.
Definitely. All beautiful, incredible, very true answers. I got to be the MC this morning for the Youth Poetry Slam. For the youth that have been participating in our festival, I've had the chance to kind of like teach them and like coach them and work with them along their process, and just seeing them grow from just like they wouldn't turn their cameras on, they would like just like not look like, and then slowly hearing them start to share their poetry. And then today, some of them were like full out performing, and you can just hear their voices. And that's my favorite thing about slam poetry. I got involved with AMP in high school, and it changed my life. Like it changed the whole trajectory of my life. I was like, oh my God, I could do this. Why would I do anything else if I could do this? So it's just super cool, super fun. Okay, I'm going to pop up a next question. So this question is about staying in your craft during the pandemic. I know everything has been like tumultuous. I know that I myself have been really unmotivated. So how do you stay in your craft and continue to, Stacy, don't worry. I wasn't gonna, don't worry about it. It didn't happen. Nobody saw it. How do you stay in your craft during the pandemic?
I don't.
I haven't been.
I don't know. You can see other art behind
been
me.
doing a lot of painting.
A lot of painting. Yeah, I think you give yourself permission. Like the more you say you have writer's block, the more it like becomes this thing, and it like this thing outside of you or something. I think you have to give yourself permission to take in and to experience and to reflect on it and then put it out. So.
Yeah, I think it's a really good, like both of those answers. Like there's other art helps contribute to it. Like I don't think I've been much in my slam or spoken word, but I've been trying to work on other art projects. And part of what helps give me energy to do slam poetry is seeing people and taking that in, and then you can put it back out. And so if you can't do that, it's pretty tough to output when you don't have any fuel coming in. And I think it's good to give yourself permission for that.
Yeah. That's wild. It's almost as if every single one of you read my mind, because my next question was going to be about what other types of art and creative things do you do other than poetry? And you really just segued into that so beautifully. So we heard some painting, some art. Is there anything else? I paint, in case you can't
Yeah.
Nice.
in case you can't tell by the everything behind me.
What kind of canvases are
I've
those?
seen Stacy's house. I've seen her stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I use just like I just use like a acrylic paper, or sometimes just records. Honestly, whatever I can get my hands on, because canvas is expensive.
Yes, it is.
So I'm pretty scrappy and thrifty when it comes to finding things to paint on. I'm like, I could paint on this, and everybody's like, okay, I guess if you want to, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna. So
Here's one.
definitely.
I don't know if you can see that. That's like a wall hanging that I found at I think it was at a grocery store for like $20. and I painted and drew all over it. It has lyrics from the poetry and stuff on it, all kinds of weird stuff. I love it. And Goodwill has tons of canvases too. I try not to buy too many.
Yeah.
I just paint over them.
Yeah, go to Goodwill or thrift stores and buy somebody's basically thrown away painting and paint over it, and you've got a good canvas.
Definitely.
All right, awesome. So I have just this long list of questions. I'm just skimming it right now to see what the best one would be. Okay, so I'm going to ask a little bit about your writing process. And if you could just tell me a little bit about that. I know everybody kind of has their own different process, and I know that you've all touched on like hearing other people perform and then feeling inspired to write things. But I wasn't sure if any of you had like a specific process that you do. I know some people are really particular. I'm super sporadic. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'm writing right now. And then I just like go back to whatever I was doing before. So I know that everybody's is different. So I was just curious.
I have like my own weird method, but I want to give you guys a chance to go first because I feel like I've gone first on a few.
Okay, I'll go. I have different methods. I write notes all the time, so I have notes on scraps of paper, a couple lines. I have drawers full of notebooks with scribbles in them that maybe would have amounted to something if I ever reread them. But occasionally I will get an idea and I will get a project. And probably not a whole lot unlike Jordan stuff, is I will find a subject and I will research the hell out of it. I have a poem about butterflies. I probably have 6 pages of notes, and I only use like 4 different types of butterflies in the poem. I have a poem about horses that I have 6 pages of notes and a 300-word poem out of it, because I am over getting as many different words as possible, because I kind of hate poetry where people repeat a word. So if they're talking about playground, well, the kids were playing, and then later on they say the kids were playing. There's other words you can use for playing, you know, because English is so big. And so sometimes I'm obsessed like that, and other times God or the devil is whispering in your ear, and the whole thing just comes out on page right then and there. You look at it and you go, I don't even have to edit this.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones. Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Do you ever have, like, I'll sit down to write one poem, and it's like that unlocks, and anytime for me, I get like the muse just crapping on my head and it pops out. I was trying to do something else, and a poem I'd never thought about kind of emerges instead.
I've had to throw away the first 20 lines of a poem because my poem changed 20 lines into a different poem.
Completely different.
And you throw away the beginning and you continue from that part on.
Yeah.
It's a lot about trusting the process, I think, and just getting it all out and letting it flow out.
I like to chop and prop them.
Yeah. My process is similar. Like, I feel like I have like various sizes of notebooks for what I'm trying to do, and I'll have like the ones where I jot like a couplet or 4 or 5 lines, and I kind of have those in my mind. And then when I think about a poem, I'll usually have in my head the opening line or the last line, and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna paper mache these other bits onto a skeleton to get me where I want it to go. And what makes it easier for me when I'm like, oh, I really like this line, but it doesn't fit in this poem, I can just kind of rip it off, put it back in the box. It might come out for another day, and it helps make it easier for me to like get rid of lines I like but don't necessarily fit a poem.
Awesome.
I get mad sometimes because it doesn't fit.
I like that beginning.
I like you, but you don't fit.
If I take 2 words out of it, will it fit? No. Damn it. All right, box.
Back to the box you go.
Yeah.
I do a lot of audio recordings. Because I can never talk as fast as I never write
And then
as fast.
he's doing slam poetry. That'll work.
It's all about the audio. It's such an experience. Like, I love writing is. I'll even talk to text a lot. I love talk to text. I'll talk to text my phone to my computer. Like,
yeah.
I get all my best ideas when I'm driving, so I do a lot of audio
Shower.
recordings.
In the shower.
Sure. Okay.
Nice.
Shower. I get like,
You're like, oh my God, this water is rejuvenating every single brain cell that I have. I have so many thoughts, I have so many ideas.
and I'm in the shower.
Obviously, you can't type. You
gotta
can't
take a
grab
break.
your phone. What are you gonna do?
Oh, I'll take a break. I don't.
Awesome. So I want to ask a little bit about what it's like to travel and perform slam poetry. And I'd like to know what the best part of working on a team is and what the worst part of working on a team is.
Well, I can recuse myself from the second one because I've never actually been on a team, although I've made many teams. We've ran into lots of challenges, so that's very, very challenging. Just the community, you know, as wonderful as it is, there's definitely a lot of, you know, there's definitely a dark side to it, and it's not perfect as much as I, in my heart, want and believe it to be. But it is the most inspiring and satisfying thing I've ever done, and it is the most. I've met the most people that I value the most creatively and emotionally through poetry. So it's always worth it to me. It's always worth it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't even know what I would say the worst part of it is, because while I know there's sometimes things in the community at large, like my team experience was overwhelmingly just positive. And I think
We love to hear that.
I think that the best part of it was when you have like two poets together, it's not that you have like 1 + 1 makes 2 poets. There's like something extra there. And even if you're like writing a new poem, the ways that you can play off of one another feel so unique. I remember when Tristan and I were on a poem in the past, we also took like one of my single written poems I had done by myself, and we reworked it to make it as a duo with myself and Leah, one of the other poets on the team. And that was its own really fun and unique experience to like reimagine a solo poem as a duet, and all these things that are kind of possibilities you open up that weren't there when it was just you on a stage shouting at a mic. It's much more like mixing the coolest parts of theater, I think, with slam, and that to me is really exciting.
Awesome.
Jordan had it good. The team we were on together was a very nice team. Everybody was easy to get along with. Everybody was talented. It was great. I've been on teams where you have to deal with egos. And they're not watching right now, but I'm not going to name any names. But
please don't. I can't be a witness to this. I can't be involved.
There's been some issues. It's kind of like, no, I need to be in the center of the stage. No, I have to do this poem, and it's like, you know, but, and you have to deal with it. But ultimately, one of the best group pieces I was on, there was a little bit of friction in our group, but it ended up being a brilliant group piece. Yeah, the Clue wrote, but it was great. So you know it was about sharks. But it was brilliant, and we were really good, and that came together really good, despite our little bits of differences.
Awesome. Awesome. I feel like that's probably just when I was writing this question, I was like, I feel like sometimes the collaboration can definitely be difficult. I know that everybody that I've met that's interested in slam, everybody has a pretty big personality, so you never know like how it's going to be when you're writing poems with other people. I've only had to write a poem with somebody else for a class one time. Actually, I did write a poem with 3 other people in high school for my slam performance with AMP. But I loved it. I had a great time. I thought that we all had a lot of fun, and everybody was just like really cool about it. And everybody's voices in it was really fun. But I figured that that's probably the most difficult part for sure. Cool. Okay. So my next question is coming up on the screen. Also, just a reminder to our viewers right now, if you have any questions for the poets, everything that you type in the chat will come up in my chat, which I can put on the screen. And if you have any questions for them, if things have come up for you that you're curious about, go ahead and type it in, and I will relay your question to our wonderful poets here. But for right now, our current question, which I ask literally all the time, and it's so funny because I always ask it, and I'm like, do you have any advice for like middle schoolers and high schoolers who are getting into slam poetry? And then I'm like taking notes in the back. I'm like, okay. I'm like, as much for me as it is for our youth who are performing in the festival. I guess I'm just curious, what is your biggest advice in terms of advice? That was terribly phrased. My apologies. I promise I'm also a poet. I'm doing the best I can. But what is your biggest advice for people who are just getting into slam poetry or poetry in general? Because I know it can be pretty intimidating. A lot of the times I tell people that I'm majoring in poetry and they're like, poetry? And I'm like, yeah, poetry. So, oh yeah, for sure, poetry.
Okay, be yourself. Be yourself. Don't let anybody talk you down. I didn't have this when I first started, but you can go online and you can watch other slam poets do it. Don't look at somebody and go, oh my God, I have to write everything and be exactly like Stacy. No, you look at Stacy and you go, oh, I could do that. You could take that little bit from Stacy. You could take a little bit from Jordan, and you make it yourself. But mostly be yourself in it. Be true to yourself. Don't turn into some kind of fanboy and go, oh my gosh, who's that douchebag from San Diego? We're not going to say his name. You're not going to go like him. I mean, he's a fantastic poet, but he's a despicable human because he dissed a friend of mine really bad, so I hate him. But
Drama.
But you can't just go, I have to be just like that person. Because it works the same with fans, you know. If you say, I want to be just like Alice Cooper, no, you're going to be a pale, horrible imitation of Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
You.
I completely agree with what he's saying there. I think one way to like realize if you're younger and you're not sure who you are yet is to give yourself permission to take from others, right? I know for me, when I was writing poetry before I'd ever heard of slam, and then when I learned about slam and saw it as a different genre, you don't necessarily know who your own voice is, and if you focus on what's my own voice, that can feel like writer's block. But if you want to come out and say, all right, I'm going to write a poem like Tristan. I'm going to write a poem like Stacy. I'm going to write a poem like Ed, who was someone that I was first learning from. Or that way you can say like, all right, now I know how my voice, writing or out loud, sounds like that person's, and I can feel I like that emotion or that cadence, and I can bring that to my own self later. And part of that, like if you're watching other poets, is realizing everyone's different and they're all still slam. So you can say, just by watching those, you can kind of give yourself permission to let slam be whatever it needs to be for you.
I love that. Oh yeah. I would say one of the things I did was I took song lyrics that gave me like a huge, just, emotional thing. And I had a notebook, a tiny little notebook, and I would write down all the lyrics and I would repeat them over and over to myself. I started, memorizing underground hip hop lyrics. And that really broke down that barrier in my mind of like, I have to be a poet, like this big, thing. And it became less about trying to tell people what I was thinking or try and change how they were thinking. And it just was about eliciting emotion and even removing expectation from how people were going to feel or react to the poem, and just being satisfied with them feeling something. Engaging someone else emotionally, I think, is pretty underrated. So if it makes people think and it makes people, feel something, I think that if it makes them feel, then they'll start to think on their own, right, independently. And so, yeah, I would just say, get to it, write as much as you can. And if you can't think of anything to write down what other people have written, and it will inspire you to write your own stuff.
I want to add one more thing, because I feel like this is when we were first, like Stacy, when you and I had first met, and I remember you doing that with different hip hop. I think one of the things we first talked about was atmosphere. were you really into atmosphere lyrics? And I feel like there was one day where you were like, you might have been doing like God's Bathroom Floor or like this one that's like 6 or 7 minutes, and you were like, check this out. And I was like, A, damn. And B, I was like, my breath control is up to par for what she's doing. And it was like, and it's one of those things where I remember even at the time, it's like, even if you're doing something that like that, where is this slam, is it not, who cares? Because you're learning skills that all come into that. Like literally the ability to do what you were doing that day with atmosphere. I was just like, I too do slam, I thought, until I talked to you. And so that's, you know, like if you're younger and you're like, I don't know slam yet, but I feel like I'm doing hip hop. Do that and let it lead you there.
Mm. Wow. That's crazy. I totally forgot about that, Jordan.
I you know, I was just remember being backstage and I was like, you had shown off and I was like, I'm going to go back to the bar now and search.
It was my party trick to recite hip hop lyrics. That was my party trick for years, and I was a bartender for years. So I do that behind the bar. And it was just, yeah, I loved the memorization. And it was actually really kind of like it was a PTSD like coping mechanism. When I would feel an anxiety attack coming on, I could go to those words no matter what was going on. I'm 37. In my generation, we couldn't listen to any song we wanted to whenever we wanted to.
Yeah.
So you memorize lyrics so that you could, you know, have that emotional feeling. And honestly, it would calm me down and center me and remind me like what I cared about and what was important. And I had no idea that, you know, like almost a decade later, I'd be putting out a hip hop album. I had no idea. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I feel like that's half the fun of it.
Oh, it absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Zero expectation, endless gratitude. Because poetry that's the whole competition thing. It's like, if I lose, you can't judge poetry. If I win, this is awesome. Like it's you win when you have the right mindset, I feel like. What do you guys think?
I think if I win, it means that the judges were incredibly astute. And if I lose, it means that the judges had no idea what they were doing. That's all there is to it.
They were deaf.
Hot take.
Same kind of thing. It's like clearly they are great judges of character, or they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I think there's different slam communities have like their kind of different intros to kicking it off, where the MC will come up and I forget, it might have been in Boston when Tristan and I had been out there, where I saw someone introduce it and they were like, slam began in blankety blank year when this so and so started it. And that situation out there, the audience had a call and response where they'd all be like, so what? And I forget if that was out here or something else. And I love that kind of showing like the democracy of slam poetry, because it really is. It's almost like a cipher that just has been expanded and given a little more structure. There's nothing else to be concerned about. And so if the judges liked you, so what? If the judges didn't like you, same thing. You know, it's a chance to come together and share and then move on from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of a poem. I was excited. I was like, are we working on
and to show we care.
Yeah.
And then we care.
Awesome. So
I'm
going to ask
to write with you guys. Sorry. Can't wait.
Good. I have a question now, which is I feel like it's like a classic question. How many dogs do you have?
I have I think 9 of them here right now.
You are living my dream life.
It
is my dream life.
Bouncing off one another everywhere right now.
I just feel like every time I like refocus on, I'm like bouncing around looking at everybody, and then I'll like refocus on your screen and there's a different dog every time.
Yeah. They're all coming up like, it could be dinner time. May we?
It could be.
Everybody's gonna have their turn. Yeah. They all gonna have their
Awesome. So I have another question. But before I ask that question, I know that I didn't ask you to bring anything or prepare anything for this, but if you happen to have anything that you would be willing to share with us, we have a request in the chat that we would love to hear you perform. Yes. And I also am about to give a special shout out to the Clute, who made the Arizona State Slam Championships. possible. We love him. That's all. I'm just here to pass along this information. The Clute, if you're out there, love. Lots of love. And then in the process, so the question that I have next is, how did you get into slam? And then I figured that would be a good one to go into with our request for mayhaps an on-the-spot performance, if you had anything you'd be willing to share today. So I'm just going to pop this bad boy up on the screen because I just think it's so fun that I can put the questions there. Like, I feel like a newscaster. I'm like, how did you get into slam? So let's hear today from Tristan and Jordan and Stacy. How did they get into slam?
It's like we're on like CNN or something all of a sudden. Here comes the report.
Right, the NASDAQ at the bottom. I want the NASDAQ right on there.
Oh no! So this is all I have. I'm so sorry.
CNN news gives me anxiety. We're good. This is good. I got into it. I found it on Facebook. Literally saw an ad for local slams. And yeah, so it was and before that it was an open mic that I also saw advertised on Facebook. Literally
Thanks,
Googled
Facebook.
it.
We're streaming to there right now, so hey Facebook, what's up? Thank you for bringing us Stacy.
I got into it. I had done theater in high school and college, and that had been for me like a similarly transformative, beautiful experience. And I grew up on the East Coast, so when I moved out here, I was looking for something similar. And in our teacher training, because I moved out here to be a middle school teacher, they showed us a poem called "What Teachers Make." And it was just kind of one to like cut us all up, but I was just like, wow, that guy was doing like a whole stage performance, was how I thought of it. So when I was kind of out here in a new city, not knowing many people, that had been my way to like look up in the Phoenix New Times and on Facebook, what is slam poetry, and kind of learn and go through different mics and kind of, I think I probably spent almost a year going to things before I really wanted to share anything. And so that's always like, I like to tell people that because it's like, if you're nervous, I'm sure we all were, like, I don't want to speak for you guys, but it took me some time, even with like 8 years of theater experience, to want to get up and do stuff from the heart on stage. It's tough.
It's definitely different. I'm a former theater kid too, and it's huge difference between sharing your own work and sharing some work that you memorized and perfected through your acting, rather than being like, I wrote this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What did the author mean by this? Oh my God, that's on me now. Like,
what about you, Tristan?
Jordan, Taylor Malley?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, the teacher part.
What if you make a difference?
So I've been writing poetry for a very, very long time. I sang in bands and wrote songs for bands for a while. And then I broke up with a girlfriend in 2004, and I needed something to do. So I went to an open mic at the Willow House, and that was fun. I went to a couple other open mics. Then I found Paper Heart, and I just sat there and I didn't read. And the DJ, DJ Seduce, awesome DJ, comes up to me and goes, "You got a notebook? Why don't you come up and read something?" And I went up there, and now I've sung in front of 5,000 people before. I'm shaking, my foot's tapping, and I'm reading a crappy little poem. And it was fun. And then I found out about Poetry Slam, and I drove to Mesa from where I live every single, and it took me a while to get the hang of it, to how Poetry Slam worked, and then I got into it and I didn't quit. And that was an interesting scene. That was Barry and Bill Campana, Corbett Dean. It was a really good scene. And then I just never quit. It's like bungee jumping sometimes when you get up on stage. It's just that adrenaline rush, you know?
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
I always feel like I'm going to puke before. I'm always like, oh my God, I'm going to puke. I'm going to throw up right now. And in the first few lines, I'm like, I'm going to puke. And then when it's done, I feel the same way as when I ride a roller coaster, where I'm about to get into the seat and they're strapping me in. And I'm like, let me out. I can't do this. Let me out. And then they're like, sorry, we're already actually going now. But then it's over and it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. That was so fun.
Let's do it again. Let's go again.
Let's do it again. Yeah, let's do it again. But it's just the process of getting up there and feeling the nerves and just kind of riding with it.
It's really nice to feel because sometimes, even pre-pandemic, you can kind of go through your day and be on autopilot, and it's exciting and it can be nerve-wracking, but it's so nice, literally just to feel. And I think because slam poetry is often you're like, this is how I feel and what I felt about some situation. It's so key for that.
So true.
Awesome.
So true.
So true.
So
go ahead.
The first time you get all 10s on a poem, you can never go back. It's like it's like the first hit of a crack pipe. You can never like match that.
Tristan, is now a bad time to tell you that children watch this?
Sorry, I have that in a.
That's fair.
It is.
We love a metaphor.
People ask me like, when will the butterflies go away? And I'm like, I hope never, because it really is the same feeling I get when I've been riding dirt bikes since I was a little kid, and I'm addicted to that adrenaline, and it's very, very similar. I've come to realize it's just all that rising action that it's so fun, and you can definitely become addicted to it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have 13 minutes left, and we did have a performance request from the audience. If anybody would be willing, interested.
Sure.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors.
Sick. I'm loving the enthusiasm.
For all of us.
We'll see. We're all slam poets. And to quote David Tabor, we can pull our favorite poets out of our ass at any given moment.
This is the given time. This is it. The time is now.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? I'll go. I'll be the sacrificial lamb. This is just a portion, so it won't be a full 3 minutes. For all of us, the wicked, there just is no rest. The only things that are permanent are dead. Everything alive changes. What you want is a moving target. Do you know what you truly desire or what you would do if you got it? How about if you got it and realized you didn't even want it? That all life's troubles don't tie up neat and tidy like a sonnet, that the insanity just goes on and on and on and on. That you will never have written your best one ever because you still got one more until you don't anymore. And then how bad would you fight for one more night on the floor? Please don't wait till you're bedridden to search for something more. Search for something more. Search for something more. No rainstorms, just showers. I make my own superpowers. Got a skill set that kills it. Student of so many masters. Slave only to the moment. I'm a monument on casters. Drifting around the corners. Come on, a little faster.
Oh.
Okay. All right, Stacy.
Yay,
dog approved. The pups approve. They said speak
to answer Kim. So to answer Kim, go find a space. Get a cup of coffee right there yourself. Nobody will. Okay, if you can't do it in your own home.
Yeah.
I find coffee shops really good.
Yeah.
Or parks.
Parks are nice.
All right. So, yeah, parks are nice.
I would love to hear one that is not really like a finished poem, but it kind of touches on what we're doing here, and it's kind of like one I have for me that you guys may have heard like bits of in other poems. So mine goes like this. People always ask poets, why do you write? Me? Because I'm sick of trying to justify my existence and thinking I should bid this life good riddance. Because I stay on my grind working for a pittance, and I fear like I'm lying to myself with my insistence that doing these devils is doing due diligence. That's bringing me closer to the day when teaching and writing, preaching and fighting will finally be my business. But every day, meanwhile, I feel ever more villainous. Because whether ethics or aesthetics is the litmus, the math comes back like the bucket, kick it. There's hungry little kids that stitch my clothes. And there's others picking fruit from neat little rows. And more in minds where the sun never shows for things on which I write these lines and watch TV shows. And I've heard it said you should live by a code. And what I have done to deserve all this, I do not know. But guilt if the blood spilt makes me want to go. Ethics, I can't tell myself I'm living right when I feel like a scab at a hunger strike. when I look in the mirror and I see a parasite. And aesthetics, if I have got any kind of light to make the world bright, it shines when I write, and I feel like I'm headed for hell just waiting to ignite. I lie awake at night, and every single morning at breakfast, I still have an appetite. I heard texts say that hell's not a place for non-Christians. It's the failure of your life's greatest ambition. And if I'm going to look at myself in the mirror, I need a reason to hang on here. I need to face my fears and make my life into a mission. Mix history with politics, spit it with rhythm and diction. Something y'all never heard before. I call it pulp nonfiction.
Ooh.
Okay. I love a fun play on words. That's one of my favorite things.
Thank you.
Such a fun
That's
technique.
what I love about these two is they do that rhyme and that alliteration. And it's something that eludes me unless I really put myself to it.
It's so clever.
We're gonna play with it, Tristan.
Yes,
You're not far. You're not far.
Yeah. I mean, I used to never write anything that rhymed because I was like, ew, gross. I feel like Dr. Seuss, but I've started doing it recently, and Tristan, if I can do it, you can do it.
I have a couple somewhat cowboy poems where I do the rhymes, and I researched them, and I made sure I didn't have stupid ones like bat, cat, and hat. But yeah, I have a couple of those. They're just more work for me. And I quit writing songs a long time ago. It's hard for me to write a song now because I can't get that cadence, that thing anymore.
But you've got your own specific style now. It's something else, so that's fair.
Yeah.
You're like, if it's gonna rhyme, it needs guitar. So like that could be what it is.
Sometimes I have to make a rhyme go away because I'll accidentally do it, and it's like I'm not going to put more rhymes in this poem, so I have to make that
Yeah.
You're like, I can't just have one random rhyme in here.
Yeah,
that's why alliteration is so great.
Yeah,
doesn't set you high. Do a poem, Tristan. Do a poem.
Tristan.
Okay, so this
Give
I
people
wrote
what they want.
real close to the beginning of this whole COVID thing, and it's kind of apropos because we're on the computer. Okay. I can't kiss you over the phone, but I can replay that first kiss. Dreamlike and newfound bliss, to Willie Nelson playing in the background. Your lips, your tongue, soft and wet like the ripest of mangoes, succulent beyond my wildest culinary dreams, sweeter than Nirvana nectar. And while I can play this over and over in my head, I yearn for the real. I can't touch you through the computer screen, though in 3D, real-time, high-def, pixelated, we can smile and wave and talk. But I long for your caress, the touch of velvet, your skin, the scent of coconut clinging to your collarbone. I wish to trace the tracks of glory, the honor of motherhood lined across your belly, to feel your fingertips, to touch your smile, your spine pressed against my chest, the rise and fall of your breasts, inhale, exhale, contentment, and peace. I can't hear your voice in Messenger, but your words whisper in my ear, new and familiar, poetry and old words and cliches, reborn and unique, as patterns of commonplace wonder. Your face smiles and winks at me in bright yellow emoji buttons. I am all cartoon grin from ear to ear, like Joker, sans evil and grease paint. We are quarantined, self-isolation, sequestered and imprisoned, separated by 6 feet times thousands. I place kisses on the wind in hopes that one will reach you. Milos de besos, enough to cover you head to toe, because I still can't kiss you over the phone. So that's fun.
Full circle. Okay. Imagery king. I was like, oh, I'm looking at all these things. I'm seeing all these things. I'm right there.
It's like a movie.
I know. I was like, okay, what's this movie called?
Yeah.
Y'all
See,
seen
that's what a
this movie?
slam poetry is like. It's like it's a 3-minute rock video, an MTV video, because we have a narration, we have a story, and if you think about all these, there are images that go with all of that stuff that would make a really good video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so it's 5:55. We have 5 minutes left.
questions from anyone else?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Wow, Stacy, you're a better host than I am. You're like, anybody got any questions? But does anybody have any questions for our last few minutes? Stacy, chef's kiss, thank you.
You're a queen. Look at these bylines on here. Look at it.
Thank you. Everybody is just so wonderful. I knew that this was going to be super awesome and super fun. Been looking forward to it all week. But yes, awesome. So, any questions? Anybody out there? Okay. The question is, do you have a favorite word or phrase?
I don't believe in enemies, just energy not meant for me. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my
Period.
ones these days.
Period.
I don't know about a phrase, but I really love the word communicado.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a word or phrase either. Sometimes I will see colors and sort of whatnot with words and sounds of the way my own brain's built. So sometimes I feel like, yeah, I like the green, yellow, red of that poem, but I don't know if I have a certain like word or phrase that always brings it out.
So here it is for you. It's a form of synesthesia.
Yes.
That's a good word for you. Synesthesia.
Synesthesia. That's a great word.
I almost crashed my car once. The first time I heard Katy Perry's I Kissed a Girl and I Think I Like It, because it brought on such intense, like Lisa Frank, Technicolor pyramids all over my vision. I had to like pull over and change the station.
Oh my God.
Overwhelming.
That's so cool.
I was like, yeah, change the station.
Anybody who doesn't know who Lisa Frank is, look it up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Look it up.
As a young man, when you wanted to be tough, in my day, you had the no fear folders. But now I feel like I'm more comfortable, and I'm like Lisa Frank. That's where it's at. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa Frank is always where it's at.
Yeah.
The whole
Lisa
time.
Frank is Peter Max of your generation. You know who Peter Max is? Think about Beatles' Yellow Submarine.
Okay.
Primary back. Okay, that's Peter Max. And Lisa
Nice.
Frank is like that for this time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Colors are the best.
If I had a lunchbox with her stuff on it, I would take it to work with me. And you know what? Nobody would say anything.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, do we have any last minute questions or anything that you guys would like to say before we end this wonderful time?
I want Caitlin to do a 1-minute poem.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
Me? Okay, hang on.
Yay.
I have all my silly little notes. I don't have anything memorized, but I will go ahead.
Hi, Jaleel. I try not to overuse words in poems. I obsess over words in poems until or I'll bust out the thesaurus. Just thesaurus your life away. Just find that word. You'll keep looking, you'll find it. Okay.
Beautiful. A wonderful answer.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is not complete, but that's okay.
That's wonderful.
Do you ever just like struggle with technology like nobody's business? It's me every day.
Only when you're put on the spot.
I know. I'm just like, wait. I'm like, I have so many poems. Hang on, I promise. Okay. This is just a draft, so here she is. Okay. I tried to tell you too many times. I tried it more than enough. I tried to be gentle, and then I tried to be rough. I tried to make it work, and I cried every night for a year. I tried to fix it, and all you did was fill the space with my ears, with self-loathing, fears of inadequacy, fears of inferiority. When you undressed me, you stripped me of my worth. When you undressed someone else, I sat waiting for a text back. I wanted to throw your shit out of my window while calling you a jerk, but something about you made me weak, like I was folding myself in fourths just so you could feel strong. Something about you made me fight myself, though you were the enemy all along. I spit your name out like blood on the concrete the night that you fell to your feet and wrapped your arms around my legs and begged me to stay, climbed on my car as I drove away, choking on my blood and my own misery, knowing you could not have loved me. Because even if you loved part of me, you never would have treated me the way that you did. So there's my quick little poem.
It's important.
Just a fun little one. Thank you. It was the first one that I found in my notes. So
Yes.
thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, so it's 6:01. And before we go, I just wanted to give a big shout out to everybody who asked questions in the chat. That was super awesome. It's really fun. The biggest hope for this panel and it being done this way through a live stream was that you would be able to ask these poets questions. So that's been super awesome. Thank you to everybody who came to watch. Obviously, thank you to these 3 wonderful slam poets who took some time out of their Saturday evening to come hang out with me and to come hang out with all of you. I'm very grateful. And yeah, just lots of love all around. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Wonderful to be here.
Right.
Well, have a beautiful night, everybody. Do something for yourself tonight and drink lots of water.
Awesome.
Talk to you soon.
I'll see you
Bye.
all there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
soon.